I have to say we really resisted doing the second one almost as much as we resisted doing the first one. And it had to do with the fact that the story was not immediately clear to us. And we talked a lot about the sequels that we loved as kids. They all stood on their own as great films, even if you hadn't seen anything that came before or anything that came after it. And the second thing that was critical is that the main characters were tested in a very fundamental way. And we felt like if we could find a story that was going to adhere to those rules, we'd probably be okay. And then once we found that big idea, we felt like we could do it. When we did the first movie, people could not imagine, they thought it was a cartoon or a comic book or a toy. They couldn't imagine what it would feel like to see these things exist in reality. But suddenly it becomes a story about how robots are genuinely interacting with our government and what are the protocols in place, the secrecy, how do they talk to each other, and suddenly you're writing scenes where robots and the government are talking and
it's like where would you hide Optimus Prime?
What would that look like exactly?
I bet
how big would the hangar have to be?
Those meetings are great, and it's weird when we're in a meeting. By the way, we're with Aaron Kruger, and they need to know when we need like so and so aircraft carrier. So asking like, okay, we're going to go work on Act 1, and you're going to go figure out where to deploy our battle groups. You don't normally find yourself in that situation as a screenwriter.
We write our action scenes in great, great detail on the page. It's not giant robot fight here. It's our own ideas, talking to Michael, coming up with, it's a synthesis of everybody's input. And then we really lay it out, like literally punch for punch.
Another thing we did to try and think of how to top the first movie was that the first movie was very much kind of a small town palette, and Transformers 2 is very international. We really picked locations around the world. I think this is the first time in I don't know how long that anyone was able to film on the actual pyramids at Giza. We were allowed to touch them and stuff like that, which doesn't usually happen. So the scale of it is it's not something you've seen, and you've never seen some of these locations filmed this way.
The scope of the movie is absolutely bigger, and there are a lot more robots.
A lot of the research and development that went into the first movie as well, they could build on it this time. So right. ILM was able to make much more out of the expression of the Transformers' faces and their eyes, and bringing them to life. It's infinitely more articulated than it was in the first movie. There were things from the first movie that we wanted to do that we ended up being able to do in the second one. We had some great action introduction for Optimus Prime at one point that we weren't able to do, that now is actually the way you introduce him in the sequel.
And Hasbro, I mean, we went to Transformer School when we did the first movie. And literally, we went up to Hasbro and they sat us down and they told us all the deep mythology of the Transformers. And if you look at it, it's just 20 some odd years of storytelling. So there's no way there isn't some story there for the third one. The question is just whether or not, we'd be able to see it.